West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
This is Michael Popak, Legal AF. Judge Aileen Cannon presiding over Mar-a-Lago. Gotcha. NPR has discovered that for 2 years running, Judge Aileen Cannon, without disclosing it appropriately on the federal form she's required to disclose paid trips on, went not once but twice on all expense paid trips sponsored by George Mason University and the Antonin Scalia School of Law, which was funded and founded officially by one Leonard Leo, the founder of the Federalist Society. They hold colloquiums where they bring in lots of judges, all right-wing Republican judges to the Federalist Society, to hear lectures on topics about woke law and the problem with that, and basically attacking the Democratic or progressive agenda. Aileen Cannon went on one of these all-expense paid trips, probably totaling about $10,000 in 2021 and 2022, and certainly while she was presiding over a case involving Donald Trump. Now look, ProPublica just won a Pulitzer for exposing the all-expense paid trips and relationships between Clarence Thomas and right-wing MAGA donors that he's been taking for years without disclosing it. And tens of thousands of dollars a year on yachts, on private jets, to hunting lodges, $1,000, $2,000 a day. But he's not presiding at present over the Mar-a-Lago case. Aileen Cannon is, so we need to talk about her. Now look, George Mason University is the rightest of right-wing universities. It's law school named after Antonin Scalia, funded by the Koch brothers, funded by Leonard Leo of the Federalist Society. You can sort of figure out what is going on inside of that incubator, right? And federal judges and Supreme Court judges regularly go to George Mason University for colloquiums and seminars and all expense paid boondoggles that are paid for by these right-wing MAGA people to rub elbows with other right-wing MAGA people before they return to the bench to make decisions for you and me. Justice is blind? I don't think so. And certainly not on these all-expense paid trips and luxury resorts. Now, Aileen Cannon is not the only person that participates in these kind of events sponsored by George Mason University and the law school. There are 75 other judges, appellate and district court judges, federal, that have also participated. Some of the Supreme Court justices that I've just outlined, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, have all, Thomas, Alito, have all at one time or another taken an all-expense paid trip paid for by the Federalist Society. Let's just put it that way. Should that come as any shock? Now, look, the Democrats do it too. I mean, I don't want to, it's good for the goose and the gander. I mean, there are plenty of trips that are paid for the progressive wing of the Supreme Court, where they go away every summer to their, sabbaticals for the summer and go teach in Italy or in Europe somewhere, and somebody's footing the bill, right? It's just not so blatant. They're not taking all expense paid trips paid for by the ACLU, although they should. But Aileen Cannon didn't disclose on her federal form that she took these trips. She had 30 days within, people are upset about it. She had 30 days within which to disclose on her federal form, her privately funded seminar disclosure form. And until NPR, National Public Radio, contacted her about it, she hadn't posted it for either 2021 or 2022. I mean, a judge that constantly torments the prosecutors about being more transparent. You need to be more transparent. We have to have more documents and information that could put witnesses at risk on the public docket. This is about transparency and the public's need to know. She certainly got pretty opaque when it came to her own participation in Federalist Society all expense paid trips and vacations. Why? I've been a long-time digital subscriber of our next sponsor, The Washington Post, going back to, All the President's Men. And now it's one of my go-to reads for its amazing well-being, lifestyle, and recipe sections. I end up sharing multiple articles a week with the Midas Touch family. I mean, we're all busy, and we appreciate you carving out time for Legal AF. That's why I think making time for the Washington Post will also enrich your life. And this podcast, it's sponsored by the Washington Post. My wife and I happen to be in Washington, D.C. right now. And the first thing we did every morning is crack open the Washington Post and thumb through the weekend and lifestyle sections to set our course. I mean, we had our coffee over Jamie Friedlander Serrano's article, Why Good Enough Can Be Better for Your Decisions and Mental Health, which put us in the right frame of mind to embrace the day. In a rush and need to catch up quickly on the day's most important and interesting stories, the Post The 7 newsletter is a quick commute read sent each weekday morning, and it's also available as a podcast. I even signed up to get the Post For You newsletter, which sends me my very own personalized roundup of stories every evening based on my interest and reading history. Their app makes it easy for me to stay up to date on the latest news, save and share stories, and follow my favorite authors. Did you know the Post offers a cool feature for audio lovers like you? You can actually listen to articles in addition to reading them, so you can tackle your to-do list and catch up on the news at the same time. You name it, the Washington Post covers it. Climate and culture to crosswords and cooking, the Washington Post helps you discover a world of surprising stories, important insights, and actionable advice. Now is the time to sign up for the Washington Post. Go to washingtonpost.com/legalaf to subscribe for just 50 cents per week for your first year. That's 80% off their typical offer, so this is truly a steal. Once again, that's washingtonpost.com/legalaf to subscribe for just 50 cents per week for the first year. Is this something she's embarrassed by? She doesn't want the public to know. Apparently, she doesn't want the public to know that she did these things. Because if she did, she would state it out loud and proud. I am a Federalist. I go on $10,000 a trip at all expense paid by the Federalist Society, by the Koch brothers, by Leo Frank and the rest. Leonard Leo, sorry. And I like rubbing elbows with other Federalists, and we make fun of progressives and Democrats, and that's me. Just say it. Just come out and say it. And disclose it. If I were the prosecutors, I'd be looking into, is this something that, we needed to have known about at the time and decided whether to move to disqualify. Now, I'll tell you, it generally doesn't work that way. You got 75 other appellate and trial court judges who are right-wing who attend these same things. They just disclose them. Supreme Court had its own issues, right? That was the ProPublica report that won the Pulitzer, because Clarence Thomas didn't disclose these things. And we didn't know about his close relationship with the with the Crow family and other right-wing MAGA mega donors, including Nazi memorabilia collecting, Holocaust denying donors, and those relationships. We didn't know that Clarence Thomas sold property to people who had business before the court, right? He borrowed money in order to buy his homestead, that he borrowed money from right-wing MAGA in order to pay the tuition of his nephew. We didn't know any about that. Doesn't stop Clarence Thomas from presiding over one of the most corrupt Supreme Courts in a long time. He never recuses himself. He never disqualifies himself. Yeah, sure, he may not show up one day unannounced for oral argument without explanation, but that's not the same thing as officially recusing himself from a case because, I don't know, his wife was involved with trying to overthrow democracy, Ginny Thomas or something like that. Now I'm focused at the molecular level at the Mar-a-Lago case. We have reporting we did right here on the Midas Touch Network that just the other day, Aileen Cannon, the $10,000 a trip Federalist Society loving Aileen Cannon, just helped out Donald Trump again and let him off the hook about a deadline that she set weeks or months ago for him to disclose any confidential information under the any classified information under the SIPA, Classified Information and Procedures Act, that he has to disclose to the prosecutors so they can get this trial going in Mar-a-Lago. And she knew that the trial in New York had already started or was going to start at the end of April. And yet she just, without any resetting of the date, she just said, no, you don't have to make your deadline. Without that deadline being met, Donald Trump's trial will never happen before November. Managing expectations here, as we like to do on the Midas Touch and Legal AF. So, am I a conspiracy theorist? I mean, not usually. But do I think it's an interesting data point that we should have known before that Aileen Cannon regularly rubs elbows on an all-expense paid trips paid for by the Federalist Society to the Antonin Scalia Colloquium in Montana on a regular basis? Yeah, I would like to have known that. And I would have liked to have reported on that. And I would like the prosecutors to have known it so they could have worked it into their analysis as to whether to move to recuse or disqualify Aileen Cannon. And only because NPR shined a light on the issue and called up her chambers did she then fill out the forms years late about it, meaning she had no intention of disclosing to the public and being transparent about what she had done until she was caught with her hand in the proverbial cookie jar.
It is Wednesday, the 8th of May of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl, and she will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. Will no one rid us of these meddlesome priests? I know it's a little different here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy because we make priest plural, which is different than the, soliloquy in the great movie Beckett. Just so you know. Let's get the quotes correct. I see people quoting that passage incorrectly all the time. Watch the movie. Well, how are you on this fine Wednesday? I'm doing a little bit better. I don't have the massive post-nasal drip that I had yesterday. It seems to be on the mend. Who knows? I think I may have been worn out from grief and everything else. Have to get down to work and figure out all the legalities now. I spoke with a lawyer yesterday. She suggested I also get a CPA. And Mom pretty much made this trust and will pretty tight. But you just never know. I've sat in hospice. I've had friends who have been administrators of estates and administrators of estates. I've seen the probate process up close, and not so personal, just up close. But now that it's personal, and I should add there's no probate here, but still, I understand that old adage, doctors should not operate on family members because you're too emotionally involved. It's hard. I have developed massive brain lock when it comes to this case. Too close to the heart. It is. And I also understand how grifters can scam people in this state. In your grief, sometimes you'll just say yes. And in most cases, you will just say yes. Oh, we have this extra fee here on this prepaid burial plan. Oh, do you now? Okay, I'll pay it. And that's how they get you. Next thing you know, hey, this little doily would look just perfect. It's only about $800. This doily would look perfect. Okay, I'll get it. All right. It's not happening here. Okay. A little bit, but we know what is going on. You also can tell when you're being buttered up. Ooh, boy. And I hate living my life like that. That's what I call a life of strategy. Because in a transactional world, you have to figure out what everybody's intentions and motivations are before they happen. And you only acquire that knowledge or inference by experience. And in the process, you develop a very dim attitude about humanity in general, where you hate your fellow man, and I hate that. I hate hating my fellow man and woman. Fellow people. I hate hating them. I don't like it. I don't do it. Okay, I know I might hate some MAGAs, but even that is more of a dislike. Because people are people. Humans are humans. When I hear this BS about, we have to have special laws against these trans people. They're people. Why are you being such a bigot? Why is someone being what they want to be such a threat to you? There is no guys going into women's lockers. And in fact, what about all those women who are going into men's lockers then? You never hear about that. But who is going to be damaged the most? Well, we don't even need to get into that discussion. People hating is wrong. Why is that such a divisive political issue? Yeah, how far are we fallen? How far indeed. All right, well, that stated, I just want to state on the record, Judge Eileen Cannon is a crook. And I will surmise, if not state unequivocally, that every single federal society judge, every single Heritage Foundation judge is a crook. They should not be on the bench. Our judiciary has been stacked and corrupted from within by right-wing billionaire money, and if you look at the actual papers of our founders, this is exactly what they warned us against. They warned us against parties, and I'm not talking about let's party. I'm talking about political parties. They warned us against political parties, and they also warned us against big money. Why? Because the founders stated unequivocally, big money does not have any loyalty to any country, but only to their money, and they will conspire with the enemies of the United States to bring it down so they can make money. Their loyalties are not to a system of democracy. Their loyalties are not to a nation called America. Their loyalties are only to themselves, their self-interest, and they will do whatever they can do to keep making their money and hold on to whatever they consider power to be. Now that comes from our founders. Mention that to the regular MAGA and they call you a socialist commie. I go, tell it to James Mason. I mean, they got right-wing universities flying the likes of a cannon out to Montana for little hunting lodge junkets. A few mega yacht cruises, all coordinated by Leonard Leo and Harlan Crow et al. And somehow, Democratic Party members, those who vote for Democratic policies, is the real evil in the world. That's exactly what a Nazi would say. All right. Well, other than that, it seems like a really nice day, doesn't it? It does. So what do we have in store for you on this really nice day as we begin in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? Well, what do we have in store? I'll tell you. Idaho prosecutors have declined to bring charges against a Coeur d'Alene 18-year-old for using the N-word and threatening sexual violence against the University of Utah women's basketball team earlier this year. They argued back and forth, this is a violation of his First Amendment rights to harass women, black women, with the N-word and with sexual violence. But kids will be kids. They said he wasn't being threatening. He was just trying to be funny. All right. They think it's all a joke. Racism and misogyny to them is all a joke. The nation's largest public utility ignored warnings its environmental review does not comply with federal law and is moving forward with a new Tennessee natural gas plant anyway. And 2 professors are challenging an Indiana law that creates new regulations on faculty tenure at public colleges and universities. What else did the Nazis do? Yeah, got rid of tenure at the universities. After the break, we move to the chef's table where the governor of the Italian region surrounding the port city of Genoa, Genoa is so pretty. Well, he was placed under house arrest as part of a corruption investigation. Those prosecutors better be careful they don't have a bomb in their car. That happens there a lot. And the Poland Prime Minister called for a special meeting of the Secret Services to discuss Russian and Belarusian infiltration after a Polish judge who had access to sensitive state information defected to Belarus. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. At netrootsradio.com. To the right of the page is the chat room link, monitored by Kelly Lincoln. Thank you, Kelly. Across the page to the left is the link to our Patreon page, and if you could help us pay our bills, that would really help us. And how can you help us? Well, if you could afford to send us what you might spend on an espresso-type coffee drink once a month, that gets pooled with people of like-minded interests. And what are those interests? Well, to keep this powerhouse of resistance resisting as the founders originally intended. And your help is direly needed. So thank you for your generosity. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on the social medias, do so at Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of those. Thank you, Tom. Follow me on the social medias at Justice Putnam. I post the show notes and links, diaries, on Daily Co's 10 minutes before showtime. And there are all the links to the actual articles and the reporters who have done the reportage. And if you follow me on social media, you have quick access to those links, and you can read the full articles, and I suggest you do. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West, and please do pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, Audible, really wherever podcasts can be found, and they're everywhere. Everywhere! All right, let us now tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and it is by A.J. McDougall out of the Daily Beast. Prosecutors in Idaho have declined to bring charges against an 18-year-old high school student who confessed to yelling a racial slur at members of the University of Utah women's basketball team earlier this year. Authorities found insufficient evidence to establish probable cause that Anthony Myers had specifically intended to harass the Utes, and that was in a charging document dated May 3rd. On the contrary, they continued, the sum of the evidence supports that Mr. Myers' intent was to be funny by calling black women the N-word and then telling him he wanted to... I'll just let the article say it. The incident occurred during the team's stay at an Idaho hotel while playing in the NCAA women's basketball tournament in nearby Spokane, Washington, authorities previously said. On the night of March 21st, surveillance video captured a large group of youths, including several black players, leaving a restaurant to walk back to their hotel. The video, as reviewed by law enforcement, showed a man inside a silver sedan audibly shouting, "I hate Nners," except he had the G part in there, the hard G. And then threatening sexual acts as he drove past. He was just trying to be funny. To be clear, the statements of the other occupants of the vehicle and of Mr. Myers himself all support that he, as a white male, thought it would be funny to shout his willingness to have anal sex with a black female, despite his expressed hate for black folks, which he made abundantly clear by deploying the N-word, prosecutors wrote. Setting aside the rank absurdity of that claim and the abjectly disgusting thought process required to believe it would be humorous to say something that abhorrent, it nevertheless undermines that he had the required specific intent to intimidate and harass. I wasn't going to say I was going to beat the crap out of you. I was only joking. How many times have we heard that before? In the charging document signed by Coeur d'Alene Chief Deputy City Attorney Ryan Hunter, prosecutors also noted that charging Myers with malicious harassment could constitute a violation of his First Amendment right to free speech. Our office shares the outrage sparked by Myers' abhorrently racist and misogynistic statement, and we join in, unequivocally condemning that statement and the use of a racial slur in this case or in any circumstance, prosecutors wrote. However, that cannot, under current law, form the basis for criminal prosecution in this case. Trust me, if some black guy had started getting into a white guy's face and saying he was going to put it up his butt, yeah, I'm just saying. And then the guy said, "Oh, I was just joking." Well, Utah changed hotels out of safety concerns after the incident, which provoked national attention and outrage. The number 5 seed in that year's tournament, the team suffered a second-round loss to Spokane's Gonzaga University. It was really upsetting, said Utah head coach Lynn Rogers at the March press conference, in which she revealed the incident had taken place, and for our players and staff to not feel safe in an NCAA tournament environment? Well, that's messed up. Travis Lawler of the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. The nation's largest public utility is moving ahead with a plan for a new natural gas plant in Tennessee, despite warnings that its environmental review of the project does not comply with federal law. The Tennessee Valley Authority announced in April that it would replace the aging coal-burning Kingston fossil plant with gas, amid growing calls for the agency's new board of directors to invest in renewables. The board, with 6 of 9 members appointed by President Biden, is expected to meet on Thursday tomorrow in Nashville, a day after a planned protest by a coalition of environmental groups demanding the utility stop investing in fossil fuels. And I believe that protest would be today. Decommissioning the Kingston plant, the site of a massive 2008 coal ash spill, is part of the TVA's overall plan to reduce its reliance on coal. In analyzing alternatives to replace the plant, the utility considered either a new 1,500 megawatt gas plant or 1,500 megawatts of solar combined with 2,200 megawatts of battery storage. And the TVA concluded that a 2027 deadline for retiring the current plant does not give it enough time to develop the renewables alternative. It would be cheaper and it would give you more megawatts, but they don't want to do it. The EPA asked the utility in a March 25 letter to redo several aspects of its analysis, citing numerous concerns with a plan to install new gas turbines. Among other things, the EPA accused the utility of defining the Kingston project so narrowly that only its predetermined choice of a new gas plant would meet the parameters, making the evaluation process a foreordained formality. EPA said the utility did not adequately explain the need for the 2027 closure or look at possible alternatives. Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. 2 professors are challenging an Indiana law creating new regulations on faculty tenure at public colleges and universities in a federal lawsuit filed yesterday, Tuesday. The law mirrors conservative-led efforts in other states to influence higher education viewed as unfriendly or hostile to conservative students and professors. The 2 professors at Purdue University in Fort Wayne, represented by the ACLU of Indiana, want portions of the law blocked before it takes effect on July 1st. A spokesperson for Purdue University, the defendant listed in the case, said the university had not been served with a lawsuit. The suit was filed against Purdue University because they are the state institution mandated to enforce the unconstitutional provisions of the law, the ACLU said in a news release. Under the new law signed by Republican Eric Holcomb in March, governing boards must review tenured professor status every 5 years. Schools have to create a policy preventing faculty from gaining tenure or promotions if they are unlikely to foster a culture of free inquiry, free expression, and intellectual diversity within the institution. According to the law, academics must expose students to a variety of political or ideological frameworks at the risk of their employment status. Opponents have said it will make it harder for Indiana schools to compete with other states for talent. In the complaint filed, the ACLU alleges the new law violates the professors' First and 14th Amendment rights. The Purdue faculty members challenging the law are Stephen A. Carr, a professor of communication and the director of the Institute for Holocaust and Genocide Studies, and David Schuster, an associate professor in the history department, according to the lawsuit. All right, let us now get to our break, and when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, The Real Challenge. Challengers. Tennis is Relationships is Tennis. Written by Justin Kuritzkitz, directed by Luca Guadagnino, and starring Zendaya. Go see it for a number of reasons. First, it's smartly shot. Like a tennis match, there are not a lot of close-ups, unlike many films I've seen recently, and it's nice to be reminded of what you can do when you stay back. Your few close-ups can really land, and also, in wide shots and long shots, your compositions can be more complex. Second, the movie's got this look. The colors are so vibrant. Watch who wears what clothes when. And the film is so uniformly lit. Even in night scenes, this is not a film of shadows, and I think this lighting keeps the movie from being what the marketing would have you think it is. It's not 90s erotic thriller, it's not neo-noir where Zendaya's character Lee is some cold sex witch manipulating these two guys, and thank goodness, avoiding that trope is one of the many ways this movie finds to be strong. That said, Challengers brings up the tragic truth that great actors need great parts, and Zendaya, it's painful because anyone should be able to see that she's poised to be a great movie star. She dominates the screen in every scene she's in. If she's not legendary by the time she's 50, that will be the fault of the movie business and not her, because there are so few good parts and fewer great parts and fewer of both for women. Lee is a good movie part, better than being Paul Atreides' girlfriend, definitely better than being Peter Parker's girlfriend, and Zendaya wants this part. She has co-produced the movie to have this part, and yet, when all is said and done, Lee's role is to be these two guys' girlfriend. This movie doesn't care as much about what she wants, what she gets, what she learns, or what she should have learned, as much as it cares about what she's done to the movie's men. The core image of Challengers is Lee sitting on the sidelines while these two guys, in a tennis match, work out their past and present, their anger and their desires. Again, it's all nicely done, but I just want more for Zendaya. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at TakeTwoMovieReview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm Charlotte Dugan, filling in for your host, Dr. Robert Gaines. Breathing is a natural bodily function that most take for granted, but for people with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, inhaling and exhaling is a daily struggle. Dr. Ann Wheaton is a researcher with CDC's National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. She's joining us today to discuss the health problems associated with COPD. Welcome to the show, Ann.
Thank you.
Ann, what is COPD?
COPD is a group of respiratory conditions, including emphysema and chronic bronchitis, which make it hard to breathe. Some of the symptoms are shortness of breath, chronic cough, and excess mucus production. In addition to chronic symptoms, patients periodically experience flare-ups, during which symptoms get more severe than usual.
What causes COPD?
Most COPD in the United States is caused by tobacco smoke, although about a quarter of COPD patients have never smoked. COPD may also be caused by industrial fumes or other air pollution. A small percentage of COPD cases is caused by genetic disorder.
What impact does COPD have on people's lives?
Since COPD makes breathing difficult, people with COPD may have trouble running errands or walking or climbing stairs.
Is there a cure?
Unfortunately, there is no cure for COPD. However, there are several things patients can do to slow the progression of COPD and control symptoms. First, smokers should make every effort to quit smoking. Just because you've already developed COPD doesn't mean it's too late to quit. Quitting can slow the progression of COPD and may mean fewer symptoms or flare-ups. Second, there are many medications available to treat COPD, but it's important to take them as prescribed. For instance, if your doctor has advised you to take a medication every day, don't skip a dose because you feel okay that day. If your COPD causes low blood oxygen levels, your physician may also prescribe supplemental oxygen. Third, pulmonary rehabilitation combines patient education and exercise training to improve your health quality of life. These personalized plans help manage your symptoms and improve your stamina. Finally, respiratory infections can trigger a flare-up of symptoms, so annual flu vaccines are recommended for people with COPD.
And where can listeners get more information about COPD?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov/COPD, and to get help quitting smoking, they can call 1-800-QUIT-NOW or visit smokefree.gov online.
Thanks, Ann. I've been talking today with CDC's Dr. Ann Wheaton about the health problems associated with COPD. Although there's no cure, it can be managed with medications and pulmonary rehabilitation. People with COPD who smoke are strongly encouraged to quit. Until next time, be well. This is Charlotte Dugan for A Cup of Health with CDC.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
Good eating habits developed in childhood can last a lifetime, but getting children to eat their fruits and vegetables is a common problem. Eating them adds important nutrients, helps control weight, and reduces the risks for many serious illnesses. Children in the U.S. are eating more fruit. However, 60% of children get fewer fruits than recommended, and 93% don't get enough vegetables. Child care, schools, and school districts can help change this by meeting or exceeding federal nutrition standards for meals and snacks, including fruits and vegetables wherever food is offered, and helping children learn about and taste fruits and vegetables. At home, parents can eat a variety of fruits and vegetables with their children and provide them as snacks, even if it takes many tries. Also, parents can include their children when shopping for, growing, and preparing fruits and vegetables. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/vital signs.
For the most accurate health information, visit www.cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. Today we're looking at a principle called the Gingles test that federal courts use when determining whether a gerrymandered redistricting map is a violation of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. How that test is interpreted can determine whether minority voters can elect the candidate of their choice or their vote is diluted by an anti-voter state legislature. A group of black voters sued the North Carolina legislature in 1982, arguing their voting districts violated the Voting Rights Act by diluting their vote and keeping black North Carolinians from electing the candidate of their choice. Before it came to trial, Congress clarified the VRA to say intentional discrimination didn't need to be proved, just the effect of discrimination was enough to be a violation of Section 2. Thornburg v. Gingles created a three-part test for federal courts to use when considering whether a VRA violation had occurred. It stipulates the minority group is sufficiently large and geographically compact to constitute a majority in a single-member district. The minority group is politically cohesive, usually voting the same way, and the white majority votes sufficiently as a bloc, usually defeating the minority's preferred candidate. As shown in the recent overturning of Louisiana's new congressional map, the interpretation of geographically compact and politically cohesive still leaves wiggle room for discrimination. We have more on Gingles and the VRA at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1877. That was the day American socialist Mary Marcy was born. Raised in Belleville, Illinois, Mary moved to Kansas City and joined the Socialist Party. She found work as a secretary to meatpacking executives at Swift and then Armour. Her 1904 investigative series, Letters of a Pork-Packing Stenographer, published in the International Socialist Review, revealed the inner workings of the Big Five Trust. Marcy described how the packing house bosses manipulated markets, set rates and prices, and created an industrial monopoly. She also exposed low wages and dangerous working conditions in the industry. Months later, she provided testimony and secret correspondence of executives to a grand jury investigation. The case made a big splash in the press, though packers would win immunity from prosecution a year later. Mary lost her job and hired on with the Associated Charities of Kansas City. There she became critical of philanthropic forces that lectured the poor on morals rather than providing concrete aid. She serialized her experiences in the fictional account Out of the Dump, Returning to Chicago, Mary worked as an assistant editor to the International Socialist Review. Her wildly popular book, Shop Talks on Economics, served as a primer on socialism. She continued to agitate against World War I, publishing articles like You Have No Country. Mary threw her lot in with the IWW in 1918, though the split of the socialist movement soon after affected her deeply. She and her husband lost their home after mortgaging it to provide bail for numerous wobblies, including Big Bill Haywood, then swept up in Red Scare conspiracy trials. The period proved too much for Mary, and in 1922, she took her own life.
Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. We always begin, whether from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 52 degrees Fahrenheit. We had a winter freeze watch overnight, and we did have some crusty rooftops. I went ahead and put my Meyer lemon tree that is in a big pot and my new pomegranate tree, which is in a smaller pot, in the greenhouse, and covered them up so they would fare better. And they did. But now we are expecting highs today in the low to mid 70s with sunny conditions throughout. And we will have winds out of the north at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies overnight with lows in the mid to upper 40s. Winds out of the north at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Then mainly sunny tomorrow with highs around 85. Winds out of the east, northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And expecting overnight lows to be in the mid 50s, which is, well, almost keeping the windows open weather. In fact, it is. Barometric pressure is falling at 30.33 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 88%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. London is 70 degrees and sunny. Paris is 57 degrees and cloudy. Rome is 66 with showers in the vicinity and continuing a active thunderstorm watch. Kabul is 65 and clear. Hong Kong is 75 degrees and cloudy. Tokyo is 53 and cloudy. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is 51 and partly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 66 and sunny with a small craft advisory on the bay and offshore. Chicago, Illinois is 74 and sunny. And New York, New York is 72 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Hard-working staff at the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. The governor of the Italian region surrounding the port city of Genoa, Genoa, was placed under house arrest yesterday, Tuesday, as part of a corruption investigation by prosecutors alleging he granted political favors in exchange for money. That would be lira. Giovanni Totti, president of the Liguria region, was serene and convinced he'll be able to explain everything, said his lawyer, Stefano Savi. According to the judge's order signing off on the arrest, Totti was accused of doing favors to local figures in exchange for money to fund 4 local elections in 2021 and 2022. Members of Totti's staff and Genoa businessmen, including some involved in the city's all-important port, were implicated in the investigation. In a statement, the regional government of Liguria said it was certain that Totti had always acted in the exclusive interests of Liguria. The council named the vice president of the region to temporarily take over all administrative functions. Justice Minister Carlo Nordio said he was perplexed by the decision to place Totti under pre-trial house arrest, saying such restrictive measures are rarely used for an investigation of this type, the La Presse news agency reported. Who knew Genoa was so dirty? Or maybe a better question is, who doesn't know? Even more hard-working staff, or maybe it's the same hard-working staff at the World Desk of the Associated Press, brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk called for a special meeting of the Secret Services to discuss Russian and Belarusian infiltration after a Polish judge who had access to sensitive state information defected to Belarus. Authorities in NATO and European Union member Poland are investigating the judge, Tomasz Schmidt, on suspicions that he was acting on behalf of a foreign intelligence service. The Polish government said in a statement yesterday, Tuesday, that Schmidt had constant and direct access to classified information. He has also been in contact with Belarusians for a long time. This situation should be of the utmost concern. Tusk announced a meeting of the Secret Services College for today, Wednesday, saying it would focus on Russian and Belarusian influence in the Polish power apparatus. Earlier yesterday, Tuesday, a Polish official said bugging devices were found in a room where the Polish cabinet was scheduled to meet. But another official later said the equipment was part of an old sound system in the building, but the incident underlined anxieties in Poland over warnings that Russia is increasing its activities against the West amid the war in neighboring Ukraine. Every day there is new information about the various strange events that are directly or indirectly related to the aggressive presence of Russian and Belarusian services in Europe, Tusk said. Schmidt fled Poland and then held a news conference on Monday in Minsk, the Belarusian capital, saying that he was forced to leave Poland due to disagreements with certain authorities. The fact that the judge would defect to Belarus, an authoritarian state allied with Russia that has large numbers of political prisoners, has shocked many in Poland. Tusk's pro-EU government took power in December, vowing to restore democratic norms after 8 years of rule by the right-wing Law and Justice Party, their MAGA party, which carried out changes to the judicial system that gave the party more power over the courts and judicial bodies. The EU said the process eroded the democratic separation of powers. Coming to an America near you, or one already here. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day, but you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for Metro's Shrimp and Grits Thursdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs, sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goer. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.